Number 5, instead of the Quran using the term king exclusively for the period of Joseph and the term pharaoh exclusively for, and the Quran, number 5 is instead the Quran uses the term king exclusively for Joseph and pharaoh exclusively for Moses. This is the last part. From the perspective of a 7th century Arab, Jew, or Christian, any of these possibilities would be acceptable, and there would be little to favor one over the other. The historical distinction between the two epithets has only come to light with the advent of modern Egyptology following the translation of hieroglyphics in the 19th century. So until the 1800s, we didn't know that there was actually a difference in the way the ancient Egyptians used to use the word Firaun. That the ones in the Middle Kingdom, which is the time of Yusuf, they didn't use it for kings, they used it for palaces. And in the time of Musa, they used it for people, for the kings themselves. We didn't know that, we didn't have that knowledge. The Christian tradition, the Jewish tradition did not record that knowledge. That knowledge was preserved in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics that only got translated in the 19th century. And the Quran made a distinction between calling the king of Egypt at the time when the word Firaun was not relevant for them at that time, historically accurate term, using the word king here for them. So that's actually one of the interesting, in facts, the Quran's usage is an impressive example of one of its most remarkable features, its stunningly precise word choice. Okay, so that's a side note that I wanted to make about king and its use in the Quran, that no small detail is arbitrary. And this goes back to a point that I can't say enough for myself and for any of you. The Quran is not only extremely precise so that it illustrates to us that it can only be the word of Allah, but its precision is there to let us know that nothing in the Quran is an extra detail that we can do without. Like it's just there just because. Let's just move along from it. Everything has a purpose. Even the use of mentioning him as the king, of course, it helps us move along in the story, but it has other purposes, you know? So now let's get to this king and his incredible dream. The first thing we note is the king openly says, "Inni ara sab'a baqaratin siman." He announced in the court, so he's sitting up on the throne and he announced in the court, and everybody, the mala are around. Apparently the servants are also around because the guy the cupbearer, right, he's also around. And it can be argued that cupbearers are usually like the personal assistants. And in some accounts of ancient Egyptian history, in ancient history in general, these men that poured the drink for the king were also there to tell them interesting stories, tell them jokes, make conversation, be company for them, etc., etc. It's kind of like the ancient bartender, personal bartender for them that just wants to make conversation with them. And that's because the kings are always dealing with heavy things, and they're dealing with, you know, legislative matters or executive matters. And sometimes they have the opportunity to discuss, or they have an opportunity to discuss something casually, okay? So now, having said that, the cupbearer is there in this conversation also. The king says, "I see 7 cows that are fat, that 7 skinny ones are eating away." And then he says that I saw 7 full stalks, meaning like you can think of crop, but 7 tall stalks are standing there that can have corn or grain inside them and that are green, and others that are dry. So it's a weird dream. First of all, the first part is extremely weird because he sees 7 fat cows getting eaten by 7 skinny cows, right? You guys hear that alarm? You guys want to go check what that is? We'll be back after this commercial message. Hold on. I'll put it on mute. Everything all right? Yeah, he's fixing the floor. Oh, okay. Okay. No, yeah, if you guys could stop for a little bit, it's distracting. Okay, come on.